What is the veil? What is the veil of the mind? What is the veil of illusion? What is the veil of Maya? I have heard that term tossed around. I would even read it in books, and I would hear teachers say things like, may the veil be lifted after a meditation. And I was preparing to create this video, and I actually said out loud, that's what it means to lift the veil. And I thought, well, let me restructure it and actually start with that as the title. What is the veil? What is the veil of the mind? In order to understand what is the veil of the mind, let's take a step back and ask, what is the mind? So there are three things that I want to address as a framework before answering what is the veil of the mind. The first one is to take a step back and ask, what is the mind? So the mind on its own, think of it like the core source of our experience, and everything that a human being experiences starts in the mind. So the mind can be considered like this empty canvas, like a blank piece of paper where you have infinite potentials for ideas. Think of all of the architecture, all of the art, all of the music, all of the scientific discoveries, all of the stories, all of the movies, all of the inventions, the creativity, all of it stems from this white canvas where all of it is ideated, is imagined, first as a thought, and then it expresses itself. The thought expresses itself through us, basically our own free will. Due to our free will, we extend and we give life to thoughts. And so what is the mind? The mind is not the different thought forms and the different ideas. The mind is not the inventions themselves. The mind is the blank slate, the infinite field of fertile ground, where it holds whatever is planted in that field. That's important for us to recognize, that the mind itself is the infinite field of potentials. So the mind itself will allow anything to be written on it. And so there are two different outcomes that could arise from our own mind. One is that we have thoughts and beliefs and attitudes, perceptions, actions, behaviors that are in alignment with all that is true and real and kind and compassionate and loving and caring. And then there's another potential, which is when we are in conscious or unconsciously feeding, giving power to thoughts, beliefs, action, behaviors that are in disalignment with all that is loving and kind and pure. So these are thoughts on rejection, on judgment, on attack, on greed, hatred, distortions. So these two thought systems can both be experienced. We could experience either one of them. What happens is that we tend to identify with the thoughts. And when we identify with them, now we give those thoughts power. And when we're giving those thoughts power, we are consciously or unconsciously, we are believing in that set of thought. So that's the second topic that I wanted to discuss in order to understand what is the veil. What are beliefs? I went to the dictionary for this one. The origin of the word belief is actually fascinating. So you can do your own etymology and research on the word belief. Originally, the word believe meant to love something dearly. So what do you believe in? Basically, another way to say that under the root definition of belief is, what do you love? Isn't that incredible? What do you believe can be asked in a different way. What do you love? Another definition says to hold dearly. And from the German root, to hold dearly, to esteem, or to trust. Another definition for believe is permission or liberty granted to do something. So that's from the root leave, like a leave of absence. Like when you hear, I'm going to request a leave of absence. It's basically permission or liberty granted to do something. So when you come to understand just even the word belief, the dictionary definition of the word itself tells us that what we believe in is that which we care about, that which we desire. Not only that, but within the root itself has the compassionate component that it's almost we're given permission. We have been granted permission to do something. And what it's doing is to think in alignment with our own free will. So as another side note, when we are in alignment with truth and harmony and compassion and joy and balance and loving kindness, we get to experience the energy in alignment with that train system, with that thought system. But likewise, when we are in jealousy and rejection, in competition, in lack, we experience the energy that is associated with it. Why? Because we are believing in it. And so this is going to help us understand the veil in a minute. I'm preparing the mind to grasp what the veil is. So this leads to the third topic that I wanted to cover before addressing the veil directly, and that is the topic of our own free will. So our own free will, basically it's tying back to that definition, the definition that said it's liberty or permission granted to do something. So our own free will has been gifted to us. We can create based on our own choices, and choice is the one thing we have. And the Course in Miracles also says that basically we have been gifted choice. And I don't want to dive too much into that because it could be an entirely different video, but the reason why we are learning to unveil, as we learn to unveil, I'll say it that way, as we learn to unveil the mind, what we're actually learning to do is to create in alignment with all that is loving and true and real. And so the Course in Miracles says, when you believe something, you have made it true for you. When you believe something, you have made it true for you. And that leads to the concept of free will, because you chose to believe in something, consciously or not, you have made it true for you. So the veil, if we now address the veil of the mind itself back to the root, what is the veil? The veil is, in essence, as the word implies, it's a cover that is false in our own mind field. It's things that we're carrying in our minds that prevent us from seeing the bigger picture. When does the veil happen? The veil happens when we are consciously or unconsciously identifying with thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, choices, actions, words, behaviors that are unskillful. And like all of these choices that originate from a thought system that can be held in the mind, when we are identifying a lot with issues and troubles, judgments, judging mind, attacking mind, we are basically within the veil. So that's a great way to understand what the veil is. We have basically entered a realm where we are encapsulated by the veil of that energy. So that energy is covering up. What is it covering? It's covering the rest of it. It's covering how I started us. The mind itself that could hold either thought systems. As a side note, I'm going to put this as a side note. Who we are in truth, as we go deeper and deeper and deeper into asking the question of who we are in truth, we become more and more intimately aware that what we are is the mind itself that is experiencing all of the different thoughts that arise on our own mental field. And so I will create another video to dive into that. So I'll close that bracket, but I will just say that as we progress in the journey inward, we recognize it's obvious that what we are is the observer of all of these thoughts that come to our field of awareness. And so how can we contribute to lifting of the veil? It's not like when I would go to retreats and I would hear teachers say, may the veil be lifted. I'm like, yeah, okay, may the veil be lifted. But we can actually actively contribute to the lifting of the veil. And there are many traditions that can help us do that, both A Course in Miracles as well as the teachings of the Buddha. So the teachings of Christ through A Course in Miracles, 365 days of constantly helping us perceive when we are attacking ourselves or others, when we're holding thoughts that are unskillful, and little by little we let that go, and that is unveiling. Basically, that is helping us perceive beyond the cover of those forces, of those energies. So the Course in Miracles, as well as the path of the Buddha, the path of Vipassana, the path of purification of the mind through silence and insight, they both do the same thing. And if we find ourselves, if we recognize ourselves that we are within the veil, actually lesson 27, 28 from A Course in Miracles tells us, above all else, I want to see things differently. So that's one easy way. It sounds easy, but it's actually very powerful when we can recognize that we have been operating from within the veil. One simple way, one simple technique to transcend that thought system is to have willingness. Simple willingness to see things differently. It's actually very joyful. I had a teacher who would constantly ask me, are you delighting? Are you delighting in the unfolding? And I'm like, I couldn't really say that I was delighting, but I can now truly understand what he was saying, because we can delight in knowing that it is possible. So let's not get too agitated and now I want to be beyond the veil. It's just the excitement and the delight that comes from knowing that there is a different way of perceiving, and it's based on our own will to see things differently, which is what the Course helps us do. And so I'm going to leave it at that for now. Please comment, share, sign up to the subscription so that you can get more notifications as I unfold my own journey of sharing. I would love to have you around, so please stick around and be blessed.